So this video is going to talk about the importance of revision and how to perform a good piece of revision. When we were in class together, we watched this short clip from Ta-Nehisi Coates, who talks about revision. So I would encourage you to go back into that PowerPoint and watch it again. We're not going to watch it here. But when we talked about feedback, we talked about it in these 4 ways: that it's constructive, specific, thought-provoking, and thought-reflecting. So what I'm going to encourage you to do right now is pause and reread these 2 paragraphs from my draft. All right, so when we talk about feedback as being constructive, what that means is it's going to help propel me forward. It's going to pose questions or ideas that show me the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So there are 2 examples on your screen here. I realize they're mostly questions, but that's a primary form for giving constructive feedback. We want to make sure we identify things about the piece that are both good and things that are confusing or things that may need attention for the writer. Another thing is that feedback is specific, so it's going to be very narrow to the piece that you're looking at. This can be looking at structures. So in this case, we're looking at sentence lengths. I like that you use different ones. It can be about punctuation. Oh, hey, look, 2 dashes. That's awesome. Thank you. You can talk about things that are missing, like in the 3rd one where it says there's a comma missing. Oh, yep, you're right. There should be a comma there. But that's more of an edit. This is something that we need to use that's going to change the content of my piece, not just, oh, you're missing a period. While valid, and thank you for pointing that out, all of our feedback cannot fall into this category because that's more editing. That's not revision. Revision is sentence length. Revision is content. We want to make sure that our feedback shows what the reader is thinking when they are reading. It's really helpful for a writer. So again, these 2 things show me that the reader noticed. Oh, awesome. Thank you for noticing my sentence structure and my punctuation. But I wanted to also show you an example of something else. They're reading my piece and they note that I'm talking about there's only 2 people in the world who spell it the same way. They're making me think that maybe they don't understand that I'm just exaggerating. So that point was lost on them. Or maybe I should look it up and see if there are famous people who spell their name my way. So that is a really helpful piece of feedback for me because my audience is missing my point. Another thing that feedback should be is thought-provoking to me. Most of the time this can be posed in question form. That's the easiest way to make the writer think. But I wanted to show you some examples here of a thought-provoking revision piece of feedback. So they're identifying in this first one that these 2 paragraphs don't seem to flow the same way. They don't seem to match. So by asking this question, is there an idea in the 2nd paragraph that could be put in this 1st paragraph? It's going to make me sit back and think about that. You know what? You're right. I didn't notice that. So what changes should I make up here? Or what changes should I make down here? Just because they tell me that something should be changed in paragraph 1 doesn't mean I can't change paragraph 2 to match paragraph 1. It's all about what I want to do as the writer. The 2nd one talks about how this 1st sentence doesn't seem to match the rest of the piece. That's a really astute observation. They're totally right. It doesn't. That was my spit it out sentence. I didn't know how to start, so I just started somewhere. They gave me an idea of what I might be able to add, but I don't have to take that idea. But I should think about the fact that they may be right. My 1st sentence doesn't match the rest. This last one I highlighted because it's one of my go-tos. It's one of my favorites. As someone who does this frequently, it's really helpful if you start whatever you want to say with what if you, because ultimately it's the writer's choice. But you could pose that as what if you change the 2nd paragraph to match the 1st paragraph? what if you change this sentence so that it reflects more people who spell your name that way? That way it's up to me as the writer, because it is up to me as the writer. I want you to also notice that none of those pieces of feedback were short. We certainly don't want to say things that are derogatory or mean, like "that sucked." This "I don't get it" is not helpful. While it's valid, if you're not understanding, you need to be more specific about what you are not understanding, because just saying "I don't get it" isn't going to elicit a response from the writer. They don't know what you're not getting. Again, we don't want to ever disparage someone. None of us are professional writers, and even professional writers did a lot of bad writing to get there, so we certainly don't need to point out whether someone is good or bad at what they're doing. Again, what? That's not specific. That's not helpful. That's just someone trying to write something to move forward. This is my first worst one, and this is my second worst one. No one gets it right the first time. Even as Ta-Nehisi Coates said it, it takes a long time to get good at writing, and it takes a lot of perseverance. And saying "it was good," well, what was good? Can you be more specific? Positive feedback is awesome, and you need to be more specific about what was good. What did you like? So we talked about the positive sandwich. So anytime we give feedback, we want to make sure it's a mix of the good and the bad. We don't want it to all be good, because that means that our writer's not going to move forward. But we don't want it to all be bad either, or identifying all the things that need to be fixed. So I like this idea of sandwiching what needs improvement with at least 2 positive comments.